Tyla is preparing to take her music around the world. Paris, London, Berlin, New York, Toronto, Cape Town, Johannesburg. But one African city that was originally announced as part of her tour has disappeared. Lagos. The Lagos date vanished after boycott calls in Nigeria, renewed anger over the treatment of Ayra Starr's team and growing outrage over the harassment of African migrants in South Africa. But the missing Lagos concert is only one part of this story. The bigger question is whether Tyla will use her global platform to stand with African families being torn apart by xenophobia. Parents are being separated from their children. Legal residents are being treated like criminals because of their accents or nationalities. People are leaving behind their homes, businesses, and loved ones because they no longer feel safe. And this raises another difficult question. Can Africa's biggest celebrities continue to receive Africa's applause while remaining silent about Africa's pain? Tyla did not cause xenophobia. She is not responsible for the failures of the South African government. But when your music crosses African borders and Africans help carry you to international fame, does your responsibility end when their applause stops? What is the value of a global platform if it cannot be used to stand with humanity? Welcome to the Critical Lens Africa, where we go beyond the headlines. Before we continue, let us watch these short clips from different news organizations and social media platforms showing what has been happening to African migrants in South Africa. When we return, we will examine what these images mean, the families being torn apart, the controversy surrounding Tyla's A-pop world tour, and whether influential South African celebrities should be using their platforms to speak.
I was looking at the navigation map. I knew I was leaving my wife. And it's not easy. I'm broken. I felt the tension in my chest. Even my wife, she cried.
I was scared. So what I was praying in my mind is, they will leave me so that I will get my life. I was very scared.
Take a video of me. We are demanding our land from people like you who are busy hiding foreigners in your apartments. We are doing that, and this is not just a joke. Why are you so selfish as old as you are? You said that you like what we are doing at first, but now we are asking you about the foreigners that are inside your apartment, and you are telling us that you are not going to answer us. We are going to demand that you remove foreigners in your apartment, and maybe if you want someone to rent, we can bring them.
A warrior formation for a war on foreigners, marching across South Africa's cities to warn African immigrants here that it's time to leave.
The leaders of this march are saying that it's peaceful, but it doesn't feel peaceful. They're brandishing weapons. They're in the heart of Johannesburg's central business district, making it clear to everyone here that they do not welcome African foreign nationals.
As the city's residents navigate through hundreds of protesters, they're targeted and attacked.
He just tasered him. Feels like a witch hunt. They keep pointing out people that they think may be foreign and then attacking them. We just saw a man get tasered on the side of this street. Are you stopping any acts of violence, or are you just organizing the march?
Even the lighter moments of this march are channeled at telling foreigners to get out. Members of Operation Dudula, the military name of this xenophobic movement, can be seen entering the ground of this school earlier this year, harassing parents in front of their children, who they suspect are undocumented. In other instances, they've prevented foreign nationals from accessing healthcare.
What you have just watched is more than an immigration debate. It is what happens when private citizens begin acting like immigration officers, judges, and enforcement agents. And this is where the Tyla controversy becomes more than a missing Lagos concert. In recent months, South Africa has witnessed a disturbing rise in anti-immigrant agitation. Groups claiming to be fighting illegal immigration have organized demonstrations and entered communities searching for people they believe are undocumented foreigners. Some migrants have reportedly been removed from their homes. Foreign-owned businesses have been attacked or looted. Even some people with valid immigration documents say they have been harassed. This is the danger of allowing private citizens to behave like immigration officers. How can a stranger walking through a neighborhood determine who is legally resident and who is undocumented? Must every African migrant now carry immigration documents everywhere because any private citizen may stop and demand to see them? And even when a person is undocumented, does that give a crowd the right to invade their home, seize belongings, assault them or force their family into the street? South Africa has the right to control its borders. Every sovereign country does. People who enter unlawfully may be investigated and removed according to the law. Foreign nationals who commit crimes should be arrested and prosecuted. But immigration enforcement belongs to trained and authorized government institutions. It does not belong to mobs, vigilante groups or angry residents roaming the streets and deciding who deserves to remain in the country. An immigration offense does not cancel a person's humanity. The scale of the crisis is becoming impossible to ignore. Nearly 1,500 Nigerians have reportedly been repatriated. Ghana has arranged the return of hundreds of its citizens. Large numbers of Malawians, Zimbabweans and Mozambicans have also left South Africa through organized repatriations, deportations or voluntary returns. The exact figures differ because governments and organizations count departures differently. But the human message is clear. Africans are leaving an African country because they no longer feel safe there. Behind every figure is a human story. A shopkeeper abandoning years of investment. A worker leaving behind wages and possessions. A mother packing hurriedly because she fears what may happen to her child. A legal resident discovering that valid documents may not protect him after a crowd has already decided that every foreigner is guilty. These are not merely immigration statistics. These are people whose African identity could not protect them in another African country. And the crisis is not only destroying businesses or forcing migrants across borders. It is also breaking families apart. Some African migrants have lived in South Africa for many years. They have married South Africans. They have children who were born and raised in the country. They have built homes, relationships, and responsibilities that cannot simply be packed into a suitcase. Yet threats have reportedly forced some foreign fathers to leave their South African partners and young children behind. One Malawian father reportedly left his South African partner and their one-year-old son because he no longer believed it was safe for him to remain. Other men have spoken about the pain of leaving their children behind. These children are not foreigners. Many are South African children being separated from one of their parents by fear and hostility. Xenophobia does not carefully separate foreigners from South Africans. It enters homes. It separates husbands from wives. It separates children from parents. It punishes South African women and children alongside the foreign spouses and fathers being forced away. So we must ask, when xenophobia separates South African children from their fathers, who exactly is it protecting? It was within this atmosphere that Tyla's world tour became controversial. Lagos was originally listed alongside Cape Town and Johannesburg. Then Nigerians began asking uncomfortable questions. Why should a South African superstar come to Nigeria to receive applause, ticket sales, and public affection while African migrants are being harassed and driven out of South Africa? Some Nigerians called for a peaceful boycott. Others argued that Tyla should not be punished for the actions of violent groups or the failures of her government. That distinction matters. There is a difference between blaming Tyla for xenophobia and asking Tyla to condemn it. Tyla is not the South African government. She is not an immigration officer. She is not personally responsible for every attack committed in her country. But Tyla is one of South Africa's most visible cultural ambassadors. Her music crosses African borders. African audiences streamed her songs. African media celebrated her international success. African artists collaborated with her. African fans supported her rise. Her success comes from her talent and hard work, but support from African audiences also helped carry her music across borders. So when Africans are being forced from their homes in South Africa, is it unreasonable to expect one simple statement? Not a political manifesto. Not an attack on South Africa. Not a defense of illegal immigration. Just a humane declaration. Criminals should face the law, but no human being should be beaten, robbed, chased from a home or killed because of nationality. Would that be too much? The controversy became even stronger because of what happened to Nigerian singer Ayra Starr. In 2024, she was scheduled to perform in Johannesburg and Cape Town, but the concerts were cancelled after organizers said visas had not been secured for her and members of her team. When Tyla's Lagos concert was announced during the latest xenophobia controversy, that incident returned to public attention. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan called on Nigeria to investigate the matter and consider the principle of reciprocity. Her argument was simple. If Nigerian entertainers and their teams face barriers in South Africa, Nigeria should examine how it handles South African performers and their entourages. She also clarified that her position was not a personal attack against Tyla. It was a demand for fairness. Respect should not travel in only one direction. Then Lagos disappeared from Tyla's public tour schedule. The European dates remained. The North American dates remained. Cape Town and Johannesburg remained. But Lagos was gone. Tyla and her management did not immediately provide a public explanation for why Lagos was removed. But the timing strongly suggests that the backlash may have played a role. And even after Lagos disappeared, Tyla could still speak. She could say, "I condemn violence against migrants. South Africa has the right to enforce immigration laws, but enforcement must remain in the hands of lawful authorities. Africans should not attack Africans." Such a statement would not betray South Africa. It would defend South Africa's humanity. Some people will argue that Tyla is an entertainer, not a politician, and that celebrities should not be pressured to comment on every crisis. That argument deserves consideration. An artist should not automatically become a government spokesperson simply because she sings. And speaking without understanding the facts can sometimes create more confusion. But this crisis directly concerns Tyla's country, her African audience, and the controversy surrounding her own Lagos concert. A simple condemnation of mob violence would not require her to solve South Africa's immigration crisis. It would require only that she affirm that human beings must be treated lawfully and with dignity. Tyla would not be the first celebrity to use fame for something greater than entertainment. Across the world, singers, actors, and athletes have used their platforms to defend refugees, vulnerable children, and victims of injustice. African music legend Angelique Kidjo has repeatedly used her voice to promote equality, human rights, and girls' education. Davido also demonstrated what it means to redirect global attention towards suffering people. During an international performance, he wore a jacket carrying the names of abducted Nigerian schoolchildren and teachers, together with the message, "Bring them home." Davido did not cause the kidnapping. He was not personally responsible for rescuing the victims. But he understood that millions of people were watching him and used that moment to remind the world about vulnerable people who might otherwise have been forgotten. That is what a platform can do. It may not solve a crisis immediately, but it can break the silence. It can draw international attention. It can place pressure on leaders. It can comfort victims by showing them they have not been forgotten. You do not need to be responsible for an injustice before you can stand against it. And this responsibility cannot rest on Tyla alone. South Africa has internationally recognized musicians, actors, comedians, athletes, church leaders, and business figures whose voices carry enormous influence. Where the collective voice is saying clearly, no to xenophobia. No to vigilante immigration enforcement. No to looting foreign-owned businesses. No to blaming entire nationalities for the crimes of individuals. Tyla is at the center of this discussion because her world tour and the disappearance of Lagos placed her directly inside the controversy. But she should not carry the entire moral responsibility alone. Trevor Noah also became part of the public discussion after appearing in a tourism campaign promoting South Africa to international visitors. There is nothing wrong with promoting one's country. South Africa is beautiful and deserves to be celebrated. But critics question the timing. Can influential South Africans invite tourists to enjoy their country while remaining publicly quiet about African migrants who say they are being intimidated inside that same country? The tourism message says, "Come to South Africa. You are welcome." But frightened migrants are hearing another message on the streets. "You do not belong here." That contradiction damages South Africa's international reputation. Trevor Noah and Tyla are not personally responsible for xenophobia, but their international visibility gives them an opportunity to challenge it. They can celebrate their country while also confronting what is wrong within it. Patriotism is not pretending your country has no problems. True patriotism is helping your country correct injustice before that injustice damages its name. Here is the question Tyla should consider as she travels. When she arrives in France, Britain, Germany, Canada, or the United States, she will expect authorized immigration officials, not private mobs, to determine whether she has permission to enter. She will expect her passport to be examined respectfully. She will expect her hotel and personal safety to be protected. She would rightly object if private citizens surrounded her in the street and demanded to see her papers simply because she was African. She would rightly object if strangers entered her hotel because they suspected a foreigner was staying there. That same dignity belongs to an unknown Malawian worker, a Nigerian trader, a Zimbabwean mother, a Ghanaian student, a Mozambican father. Human dignity should not depend on fame. A Grammy-winning celebrity and an unknown migrant deserve the same protection from mob violence. A passport may determine whether a person has legal permission to remain in a country, but it does not determine whether that person deserves to be treated like a human being. South Africans have legitimate frustrations. Unemployment is serious. Crime is serious. Pressure on public services is real. Weak border control is a genuine national problem. The South African government must address these issues. But migrants did not create every problem facing South Africa. And when a foreign national commits a crime, that crime belongs to the individual. A Nigerian criminal does not represent every Nigerian. A Zimbabwean criminal does not represent every Zimbabwean. A South African criminal does not represent every South African. Justice investigates individuals. Xenophobia condemns entire communities. That is the difference. Nigerians must also be careful not to answer xenophobia with another form of xenophobia. Threatening Tyla personally would weaken the moral argument. Harassing innocent South Africans in Nigeria would repeat the same injustice we are condemning. Attacking South African businesses or ordinary citizens would only create another cycle of hatred. The demand should not be, attack Tyla because some South Africans attacked migrants. The demand should be, Tyla, use your global voice to stand against mob violence. One is revenge. The other is moral responsibility. Senator Natasha's argument about reciprocity should also remain within the law. Governments may review visa relationships. Diplomats may demand equal treatment. But artists and ordinary citizens should never become targets of retaliation. Africa does not need Nigerians and South Africans exchanging hatred. Africa needs lawful immigration enforcement. It needs the prosecution of criminals regardless of nationality. It needs punishment for those who attack innocent migrants. And it needs influential Africans willing to remind their followers that nationality is never a license for cruelty. This issue is bigger than Tyla. It is bigger than Nigeria and South Africa. It concerns the kind of Africa we are building. African leaders speak constantly about continental unity. They celebrate Pan-Africanism. They promote trade, tourism, and collaboration across borders. But African unity cannot exist only in speeches, football tournaments, and music collaborations. It must protect the shopkeeper whose business is looted, the mother whose home is invaded, the worker attacked because of an accent, the child separated from a parent because adults have decided that foreigners are the enemy. Tyla has every right to perform. She has every right to succeed. She has every right to take her music around the world. But influence carries a choice. It can be used only to promote songs, brands, and tour dates. Or it can sometimes be used to defend people who do not have access to the world's microphones. Africans helped celebrate Tyla's rise. Now Africans are asking whether she can spare a few words for those being harassed, displaced and driven from South Africa. Not words against South Africa. Words for humanity. Because African identity should not be celebrated only when it sells music. It must also matter when Africans are suffering. So tell us. Should Tyla publicly condemn mob violence against African migrants? Was the Nigerian call to boycott her Lagos concert justified? Should Trevor Noah and other influential South Africans also speak? And what should African governments do to enforce immigration laws without destroying families and human dignity? Share your opinion respectfully in the comment section. Please like this video and share it so that many others will be informed. Also, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified whenever we upload a new video. This is the Critical Lens Africa, going beyond the headlines.